This has been an open secret, and many people have been wanting to come forward to talk to regulators, to talk to police, but they have been too afraid on fear of reprisal from the CFMEU. And as such, it's been a well-kept secret. And as such, while this might be a shock to a lot of the public, it's certainly not a shock to those in the sector.
When did you first hear rumours or more information about CFMEU figures possibly being on the take?
Well, I've been in the industry for nearly 9 years, and it's certainly something that came to my attention immediately upon starting, which was about a month after the Royal Commission that concluded in 2015. It has always been something that has been there in the dark, that we have sought regulators and police to do further investigation, but in many instances it's been thwarted by the lack of evidence, by the lack of political will, and a lack of a holistic approach by regulators and police to take a task force type approach to this and using all facets available to them as regulators.
Which authorities, which regulators were aware of the allegations?
Well, we've seen the ACCC attempt to take actions on anti-competitive conduct. We've seen police investigations in many instances that are still ongoing. The ABCC, it was then constituted, has undertaken many cases of a civil nature in relation to breaches of the Fair Work Act. And certainly it's been well known by the Fair Work Ombudsman as well as the Fair Work Commission. But unfortunately, when you have a system whereby threats and intimidation can easily impact livelihoods, then you get complicit nature of support by the sector to the extent that it goes undetected for a long period of time. And it's not until we've had these types of investigative reports that helps the industry feel empowered to become forward to regulators and for governments to act.
Did you ever raise it yourself with governments?
Absolutely. We have raised on an ongoing basis about the problems with the CFMEU and elements of its leadership in undertaking thuggery and coercion that amounts to criminal activity. That is why we have been so strident in our pursuit of using all powers of government, including the establishment of the ABCC, of all of the recommendations of the Royal Commission in 2015 to be implemented. But unfortunately, industrial relations has been used as a political football for too long, and hopefully we will now see some bipartisan support to really get to the end of this, because ultimately this is impacting not only our sector but the public.
Were specific ministers aware and then refused to act?
Well, certainly ministers have indicated that they were not aware of the criminal element that has been disclosed over the last few days. Certainly it was, as I said earlier, no secret in the industry. That is for them to answer. Certainly our focus at the moment is now there is the impetus for change, that we maximise that commitment from governments and finally see some action in terms of what is needed to clean up the industry.
What has been the result of the alleged criminality within the CFMEU on the construction sector? Has it driven up costs?
It certainly has driven up costs in terms of ultimately anything that occurs that costs money in our sector is passed on to the client. And we have always said that up to 30% increases occur on construction sites because of the activities of the CFMEU. We have been ridiculed in the past for that figure, but nevertheless it just reinforces, I think, the impact this has on the industry and on the community at large because of what we have been dealing with for decades. This has been decades in the coming, and it's going to take decades to clean up.
Are the investigations into the CFMEU going to be uncomfortable too for the construction sector, since it stands to reason, doesn't it, that some builders will be exposed for paying bribes if the allegations are stood up?
Unfortunately, this is going to have ramifications throughout the entire sector, including some of those builders and subcontractors that are involved. That is the implication of investigations. And unfortunately, that is something that many are going to be considering their options, and certainly encourage those who have got evidence to come forward to assist in terms of these investigations, but also to assist themselves if there is any ramifications to them individually or to their companies.
How many builders could be involved?
No, we don't know at this stage, and certainly the complexity of these allegations and the depth of the problem really is going to determine the extent of criminal activity versus the breaches of civil non-compliance. We're of the view there's probably going to be significant evidence of non-compliance of regulation by people within the sector, but we're really unsure at this stage of the level of criminal activity. We certainly think it is fairly widespread in Victoria and New South Wales, but that is why these investigations are so important in terms of ensuring that we uncover everything that has been occurring in the past.
Is the appointment of an external administrator as the federal government is supporting the right course of action, or should it instead be supporting the CFMEU's deregistration?
Well, from a master builder's perspective, while deregistration sounds easy, it's not. And also we are of the view that if you have an independent external administrator spending significant time in undertaking an in-depth investigation about the activities of the CFMEU and cleaning it up, that is going to be far more effective in the longer term, and also is reasonable to enable the union to continue to represent its members. And ultimately, we are supportive of unions, just not those who have a disregard for the law. So if we can get the best of both worlds, which an independent external administrator can do, then we support that. If that still doesn't work, then of course deregistration needs to be considered. But we're strongly supportive of the announcement of an external administrator. But that has to be considered in guise of other approaches and other investigations by the Fair Work Ombudsman, by the the ACCC, and of course the police as well.
Denita, Wawn, good to speak to you.
Thank you.